Long ago, when the world was bright and full of stories, an evil wizard gained the power to touch the face of God. Narrativa, goddess of stories and weaver of our world, banished him to the void, but not before he stole a piece of her divine essence. With this newfound power, the wizard lay a dread curse upon all the world, the Glyph Purge, which struck from the minds of all mortals the knowledge of how to read and write. Now, all that stand between the Isle of Meotia and an age of endless ignorance are the bards, who tell stories of distant lands, exotic creatures, and brave heroes. This is one such tale.
Hello and welcome to Challenge Rating Zero, the latest and greatest Dungeons & Dragons podcast to hit the internet airwaves. I am Sam, your Dungeon Master, and I am joined as always by my longtime friends and adventuring companions.
Hello, I'm Brian, and I play Hector the Gatekeeper.
Hello, I'm Beth, and I play Rilla Longshadow.
Hey, I'm Alex, and I play Ruger Firehide.
And last but not least, we have the man who calls himself Michael, but who we call Parker. Michael Parker playing the druid Zurabak. Say hi, Parker.
Hi, Parker.
Fantastic. It is a solemn occasion today in Challenge Rating Zero. We've lost some people. There's been some dramatic reveals. How's everyone feeling? How's everyone's head today going into this episode?
I'm upset.
Yeah, not looking forward to this grief session, that's for
I'm a little thirsty.
sure.
We have the goddamn Stricken in front of us, so I'm mostly concerned about that. Morning's kind of secondary, I think.
Well, that's that kind of pragmatism that makes Rilla everyone's favorite. In the secret polls, the very scientific secret polls I've done, which don't exist. But
See, when I polled everyone in my room, Hector was the clear favorite, so...
And what was the sample size for that particular poll, Brian?
Everyone currently in my room.
Well, I guess without further ado, let's try to get into it. When last we left our heroes, Hector, Rilla, Zurabak, and Ruger Firehide had succeeded in thwarting Varix, the Hand of the Void, and had successfully assaulted the necropolis where Varix dwelled. They had sprung a trap, slaughtering some cult members, burning to death some undead. That's a tricky one. And had succeeded in trapping Varix in a magical bubble of force. They retrieved Inga Hilltopple and departed the necropolis, pursued by a cloud of ravens, which were mysteriously held back by a magical benefactor. And Hector and Zurabak returned to the courtyard near the Void Spike, where they detonated the clock tower that stood over it. It fell onto the Void Spike, and debris showered onto Varix as well. Before they left, Zurabak saw that the face of Sebastian Weaver, Bard Extraordinaire from the College of Everspring, appeared on the surface of the Void Spike, along with the faces of all the other victims whose souls had been placed therein. It was only after the party reconvened outside of the necropolis that Inga gave them the bad news. Varix had weaved his dark magic and had placed the mark of death upon her, and very tragically, she died before their very eyes. Not before revealing to them that Sebastian probably wasn't who he said he was. Zurabak provided some insight he had gained into this topic as well, revealing a discovery he'd made back in the Blaze of Blackrock, and our companions, our protagonists, swiftly returned to the wagon train, led by Sebastian's Wagon of Wonders and trailing the traitors' wagons of the Hilltopple clan. As the Hilltopples wept for their fallen matriarch, our heroes confronted Sebastian Weaver. And so we join our heroes now. Hector stands over Sebastian in the seat of his Wagon of Wonders, his maul buried into the wood of the wagon beside Sebastian's head. Sebastian is held captive within the coils of Zurabak's animal companion Snake, and just beside them, Ruger and Rilla sit astride Cole, observing the scene. Zurabak, being slow and on foot, is a bit of a ways back, slowly ambling up on this scene, but Sebastian has just revealed to our heroes that he is not Sebastian Weaver, but in fact, the Stricken. So, Hector, you stand over the diminutive gnomish form of the bard you've known for months as Sebastian, who has just made this shocking revelation. What do you do?
I grab him by the throat and say, "What does that mean?"
That means that the person you think you've been traveling with is just a skin. This, the Stricken says, motioning to his body, is a costume I've been given, a vessel that I may use to walk the world once more.
Why?
My dear Hector, if you want to hear the story, you might start by taking your hands away from my throat. I am completely at your mercy and the mercy of my other treasured protagonists. I have nowhere to go, and believe me, if I had the means to harm you, well, they would have showed themselves by now.
My hand stays at your throat. Why?
The short answer is that Narrativa willed it. The long answer will take some time.
I let go. I pull my maul. Sheath it. I hop down and I'm gonna start preparing some rope for a more permanent tied-up solution than a living creature.
I, at this point, climb down from the back of Cole and then offer a hand to help Rilla down as well.
Oh, I'm good. And I hop down on my own.
Oh, I have manacles, so there's that.
Even better.
Forgot I had those.
Could I, reach out and suddenly grab Sebastian by his little legs and flip him upside down real quick just to see what he does?
Absolutely.
Cool, I do that.
Yeah, you grab Sebastian, now identifying as the Stricken, by his little gnome legs and dangle him upside down, and he does nothing. His eyes go wide in surprise, but he just dangles there, his arms hanging above his head. Some, a couple coins come out of his pockets, and he just hangs there. The bottom of his shirt flies up a bit, and you can see the bottom half of these terrible scars crisscrossing his torso.
I don't think we need manacles. Unless he's a really good actor, and Sebastian is not really, or whatever, the Void, whatever we're calling this dude, he's not really shown himself to be a good actor.
I believe the word you're looking for is stricken.
The Stricken, yeah, whatever.
Rilla, you wound me. I am many things. A coward, a liar, a man on a path to redemption. But to claim that I am a bad actor? I would have to disagree with you there.
Yeah, but don't you think your portrayal of Sebastian's a bit over the top? Not that I've ever met the real one, apparently. But he's kind of the bardiest bard of bards, right?
What better way to entreat the loyalty and sympathy of a band of adventurers than to portray a mewling, weak, helpless bard?
I put the manacles on him too tight.
He accepts without giving any fight. Rilla, do you put him down, or do you just hang on to him for a while?
Yeah, I drop him.
He drops with a thud into the dusty loam of the Badlands. Ugh!
I take hold of him and set him upright against the wagon.
He settles against it with a thud. Ugh. Well, no worse than I deserve.
Well, Stricken, I have a question. If Sebastian is a vessel, and you are inhabiting it, then what happened to Sebastian?
Mr. Firehide, that is a very unfortunate tale. By the time I came across this body, by the time it was bequeathed to me, it had been ravaged by the forces that once called themselves my followers. The cult that now rages across this island hates bards, and in accordance with what they believe my wishes were, they flayed him, captured, tortured, his soul unfortunately given to that void spike. His corpse was discarded. By the time I came across it, it was a brutalized husk. A joke, I assume, by Narrativa, to place me in the corpse of one of her most fervent followers.
And what were you before you found this corpse, then?
That's a complicated answer. A god, mostly. Lord of the Third Realm, Master of the Void. If you want to know who and what I am, and why we're all here, I'll need to start at the beginning.
I take one step back from him and start rolling a cigarette.
If we're gonna hear this story, let's get everyone in place. And Hector walks off towards the caravan.
Okay. The halflings that make up the Hilltopple trading family are all huddled around the corpse of Inga Hilltopple, and they are weeping, wailing, clutching each other, bawling their eyes out, struggling past each other to lay hands on the body of their fallen matriarch. They all seem absolutely beside themselves with grief.
I try and gesture for Olga and Helga, if they can see me.
They see you motion towards them, and their faces stained with tears, their eyes rimmed red, their hair frazzled, approach you in an almost dreamlike state, not entirely all here.
You've been through too much as it is today, but you and yours were also deceived by the thing masquerading as Sebastian. If you want to hear the story of the deception, we are getting to the bottom of that now.
Helga looks at you and tilts her head slightly to the side, and then she passes a hand through her red hair, shakes her head, and turns to go back with her family. Olga flips her black hair over her shoulder and takes a deep breath. She looks up at you and says, I will hear the story and relay it to my family. I do not like being made a fool of.
Zurabak, catch up.
Zurabak is about here at this point.
And then, I head back to the caravan and wait for all interested parties to get there as well.
I hop up on a roof of a caravan like I always do. If I'm going to listen to a story, I might as well be comfortable.
I continue rolling my cigarette. When I finish rolling that one, I start rolling a second.
I sit on the ground and menacingly sharpen an axe.
The thing that once called itself Sebastian and now identifies as the Stricken knocks the back of his head against the side of the Wagon of Wonders, where you have propped him up, and trips the lever for the stage to unfold from the side of it. He, with manacled hands, scampers up onto the stage platform, walks to the edge of it, and sits down. My name is Anthony Geist. I was the greatest writer that the world had ever known. Long ago, when the world was bright and full of stories, I was renowned. My books could be found in every library, public or private. My audience was sought by kings, and I dabbled in magic. My hubris got the better of me. I started to think that since my skill was unmatched, since every child could recite at least one of my stories, since every bard's college on the island taught classes on my works, that I was special, chosen, that I required not only the praise and reverence of my fellow mortals, but my own place at the feet of the gods themselves. I convinced myself that I was the perfect embodiment of Narrativa's domain, that I was the greatest practitioner of the art of storytelling that had ever drawn breath in the Isle of Meosha. I was infatuated with Narrativa. I believed that the goddess of stories spoke to me and me alone, that she was my muse. I decided that I no longer belonged with mortals, that their tedious lives were not worthy of my attention. And so I began to research darker magics. I pieced together the materials and incantations required to leave the mortal world and gain entrance to the divine realm where the gods themselves reside. This was no easy feat. It required more than a decade of travel, of experimentation, of trial and error. Obtaining the materials required to perform such a feat led me to theft, betrayal, more than one murder. I walked a dark path to stand before the light, all assuming that the goddess Narrativa, once I arrived in her realm and stood at her feet, would lay upon me nothing but affection and praise. I truly believed that I deserved her love, that I had earned it. Finally, the time came. I performed the rituals. I burned through the materials. I carved through the tapestry in which we all reside and strode into the Hall of the Gods. Narrativa and Protos stood before me in all of their glory, shining brighter than the sun. I had gotten my prize. I stood before the goddess of stories and the god of heroes. My muse was at arm's length. But I was found wanting. She saw what I had done to attain this place in her realm, and she saw the damage I had done to the tapestry. You must understand, in order to stand before her, I had to carve through the fabric of reality. I shredded the fibers of our existence and passed through them. These sins could not stand. And so, in disgust and revulsion for the acts I committed, Narrativa rightly banished me for my hubris to the void, the place where the tapestry has not touched, the darkness beyond the story. She sent me to the end of everything. A gate opened behind me, and I was flung through it. As I fell, I reached out to her in a last desperate attempt to touch her beautiful face. My fist closed on empty air, and I fell in the darkness forever. It took quite some time before I realized that my fist wasn't empty. There was something in it. I had grabbed a single strand of Narrativa's hair and plucked it from her head. Another sin, another thread of the tapestry, destroyed, drawn into the void, removed from the great weave. It thrummed with power. It shone like a beacon in the endless darkness of the void. And with my knowledge of the arcane and the godlike power that resided in even the shred of Narrativa, I was able to apply my will through the void, through the barrier between the realms, into the mortal plane. And in my wrath at being rejected by my love, I stripped all mortal kind of the knowledge of how to read and write. If my story would end this way, then I would remove all stories from all mortals forevermore. That's when the cult started. That was a surprise. He stops talking and takes a long breath and sort of stares out in the middle distance.
I strike a match and for a moment let the flames kind of like frame his face from my perspective. And then I light a cigarette and take a long drag.
With the power I stole from the Lady of Stories, I could affect mortals, mostly in their dreams and nightmares, where their minds traveled closest to the void. I could speak to them, whisper messages. When I was banished, and I smoked this world with the glyph purge, no one knew who did it. No one knew of my plans to ascend to the realm of the gods. No one knew that I was banished. No one knew who stole the stories from them. When the worshippers of Narrativa asked who had committed this terrible crime, she told them that the perpetrator's name was to be stricken from the lips of all mortals, that none might revere my actions, none might hold me in esteem. She did not realize how many people had darkness in their hearts, how many people would crave the chaos that came after. Slowly, one by one, men and women came to regard my actions as a good thing, a first step. They began to revere me, and I reached out to them in their dreams and nightmares, sent them messages, and I kept meddling, for my vengeance was not done. Why stop at destroying the written word when I could destroy civilization, when I could destroy communication, when I could destroy the trust mortals had in one another? I gave messages to my agents to sow misinformation, tell lies, and they fostered such paranoias in the halls of power that the humans tore themselves apart. The wars they fought with each other, blaming one another for the curse I crafted, is what led to the formation of the Badlands in which we now reside. I was delighted by this, and kept my followers busy, killing bards, assassinating anyone that held knowledge of any significance, generally throwing the Isle of Myosha into chaos and sowing discord wherever I could. But my followers did not think I was going far enough. A new acolyte rose to the highest echelons of power in the cult that worshipped me, the Lord Deceiver. Their prayers reached me in the void, and they asked for my help in going a step farther. They didn't want to sow chaos. They didn't want to create confusion. They wanted to destroy everything. Why stop with stories? Why not color? Why not taste? Why not the sky and the earth? Why not bring all of Narrativa's creation to tatters? Why not destroy all of it? I disagreed. It's no fun playing chess without the board. But they had grown more powerful than I realized. Behind my back, they found ways to access the void directly. The Lord Deceiver and those closest to her can cause tears in the tapestry at will. Small ones, temporary ones, but tears nonetheless. Through one of these tears, the Lord Deceiver reached into the void and stole the strand from me. It is now here, in Myosha, in the hands of nihilist zealots who want to bring about the destruction of all of the gods' works. I was rather perturbed by this turn of events, and swallowing my pride, I called out to Narrativa. She answered my call, and when I told her what had befallen the piece of her I had stolen, she gave me an opportunity to set things right. She sent me here to the mortal realm, placed me in a body whose original user no longer had need of it, and I've been trying to assemble the pieces necessary to thwart the Lord Deceiver's plans ever since. I am still, beyond anything else, a wizard, a god, a revenant, a writer. I found my protagonists. I found our objects of power. And as of a few moments ago, the plot has thickened.
I always thought you some great villain. The truth is, you are a sad little man who threw an extended temper tantrum.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Just so we're clear, your agreement to that does not absolve you of your crimes.
I'm not looking for absolution. I have no illusions about the scope of my sins or their impact on the world. I am not looking to clear my name or save my soul. I am bound to the void for all eternity. I simply do not wish to have everything the gods created destroyed. It's so passé.
I'd like to sense motive, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll do that too.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
I got a 5.
I got a 21.
Tell me everything about him.
I got an 11.
Ruger, you are a seasoned lawman. This person before you has the same air of a criminal mastermind whose underlings have snitched. This is a powerful person with a very large body count that is tired and beyond guile. You sense no caginess or deception in this being who has referred to himself as Antony.
I cast a look at Hector, hopefully conveying without words my trust.
What was your plan when we got to Everspring? Surely you would know that his own peers would see through your act.
Oh, absolutely. I have no memories and no real knowledge of Sebastian's life or acquaintances. This is a costume I'm wearing. My plan was to send you all off with instructions on who in general to contact and who to tell your story to, and I would find something to do elsewhere until you are outside of the city once again.
So your plan was not to talk to the bards?
My plan was to send you all to talk to the bards. With the artifacts in your hands, they will hear whatever story you have to tell them. And with everything you've seen and experienced, I'm sure they'd give you any aid you requested.
But you don't think they would have asked questions about the bard that gathered us?
You'd have vague answers of some diminutive gnome who some might remember, some not. At that point, you'd be far enough along the path that I doubt it would cause you any trouble.
Well, I'm of a mind to drag him to Everspring and present him to these very bards. I'm of a mind that this man have his day to speak his piece, and then he should face the justice of his peers.
I'm gonna walk over. I'm gonna grab Anthony. I'm gonna walk him over to one of the wheels of the wagon, undo one half of his manacles, and then do them back in place to where he is manacled to the wheel. I think we all need to have a conversation away from this.
I nod and follow Hector.
I do hope it's a constructive conversation. I'll be here at your disposal. As always.
I heavily contemplate throwing an axe at him.
I also heavily contemplate throwing an axe at him.
The most fun I'm going to ever have as a dungeon master is popping into that voice every now and again when I want to punch you guys in the nuts.
I walk off a ways away to where at least I believe that nobody will be able to hear us, and I hope that the rest will follow.
I follow.
Yep, me too.
Is Zurabak coming?
Zurabak leans in close to not Sebastian. I'm guessing he didn't feel it then. Disappointment. And he gets up and walks away.
So, you all assemble ways off from the bound form of Antony, formerly Sebastian. Olga stands over him, holding a small curved sword, and just stares at him while you guys have this chat.
What are you thinking, Hector?
I'm thinking, what the fuck do we do now?
Yeah.
Well, as I said before, I'll say again, I believe all of our goals align with one simple fact. we have this book. We have this skull of a cipher golem. And as it turns out, we also now have the Stricken as our prisoner. I think all three of those things belong with the bards in Everspring.
Let me ask you this. I'm admittedly a trusting individual. These days, I don't trust myself in that regard. Clearly, I've been too gullible. But you are a seasoned lawman. Do you think he truly means to try and reverse the glyph purge?
I think that as a former lawman and as a bounty hunter, it is not my place to dispense roadside justice. I believe we need to take him back to Everspring, that the bards might question him. Perhaps they know something that we do not. Perhaps they have a question we haven't thought to ponder. This man, as bereft of morality as he may be, was an important figure in our world, and he may be necessary to undo what he once did. I think we take him to the bards.
I tend to agree with that.
What say you, Rilla?
I don't really know what we should do with him at all. I was gonna say I'm worried that if we take him to the bards, they'll just chain him to a wall and interrogate him until the body dies, but I mean, he is the Stricken, so
Yeah, I'm not
it's not like the worst thing in
opposed
the
to
world.
that happening.
Yeah. Problem is, he's not gonna want to actually go there, right? If his plan was not to show up? I don't know. But then again, he's little. We just pick him up.
Yeah, I don't think the choice is his anymore.
Yeah. I don't really like the idea of being a pawn of the Stricken either. Even if he is on a redemption quest, like, still fuck him.
I would tend to agree with that.
So, I'm also cool dumping him in a hole. If we want to do that.
I think we have the two artifacts, and we have a prisoner. We take him to Everspring. We have a few days between now and then to reconsider if we change our mind. So, for now, I think it's right that we set that as our course, but we obviously have something else we need to attend to first.
Where's Zurabak? Is he still walking? Are you joining us? Do you have an opinion?
Nothing's changed.
So, okay.
Except he won't squeal anymore. Terrible loss.
I bet he will at least sometimes.
Yeah, but he won't mean it like he used to.
Zurabak, he will mean it the exact same. He's the same person.
Yeah, but now I know it's fake. It's so disappointing.
Honestly not even sure what to say to all that. Okay, Lizard. I think we're all in agreement that we need to make our way to Everspring. And I think we're all in agreement that first we need to do right by Inga. I've got a shovel on coal. I think it's high time I start digging a grave.
Wait, I mean, do we want to bury her in this fucked up wild sky?
That was my thought as well. I'm
I
not
also
sure that the
think
hilltop will...
Zurabak rolls a survival and says no.
Yeah, I don't think... don't the undead come back here? I don't think this is a good place to bury her. I think we need to get out of here first, unless we want to really scar her kids by having her show up again in 2 days. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's up to the Hilltopples, but I would tend to believe that they wouldn't want their mother buried here.
Be nice to find a place not in the Badlands that they can come back and visit. I think if we can do it before, not to be offensive, but before the rot sets in.
Well, I believe our options are as follows. We turn back to the freeholds. We find some way to penetrate that forest of yours. Or we continue on to Everspring.
That one's better. I can't go in the forest. Can't do that one. It doesn't recognize me as an elf, and that felt real bad.
Yeah, that might be something that you ask Anthony about. Perhaps there's more going on there that he wasn't willing to share earlier.
Maybe. Yeah. Of course, that means I have to believe that he's not lying to us, and I kind of feel like it could all just be one giant lie/trap, so...
I nod my head.
Well, I think that's our decision made then. I'm gonna walk back over to the carriage.
Same here.
And yeah, offer to Olga what she wants to do as far as burial is concerned.
As you approach and ask Olga what she wants to do with her mother's remains, she spits in Antony's face as he is shackled to the wagon and says, "My family will not lay to rest my mother's remains in this accursed land. We will find a fitting place for her when we get closer to the college."
That's what I thought.
Her dying wish was for you all to bring an end to this fiend's machinations. Do you still intend to bring an end to the glyph purge, as my mother requested?
With all of my heart.
Of course.
Absolutely. If we can. I mean, we are just mortals, but I'll do my best.
Olga looks at all of you in turn and slowly nods her head. My sister and I will be coming with you. I doubt the rest of our family will have a taste for this quest after all of this. But Helga and I, we are in this until the end, if you'll have us.
Of course.
Antony, with spittle running down the side of his face, blinks through it and says, "This might be asking a lot, but..." He puts a shit-eating grin on his face. "Could I see the body? I could help."
Sense motive?
Help?
Yeah, go ahead.
Help how?
Okay. 16.
He's being a fucking shit about it, but he seems to be on the up and up. When Narrativa agreed to send me here and lock me in this mortal form, there were substantial restrictions put on my power. I am no longer a god. I've been condensed, shrunken to fit into this pitiful body. But I do still have a few tricks up my sleeve, especially when it comes to things associated with the void. If Inga was slain by Varix, and her soul is gone, I might have the power to keep her form preserved until such time as we get her soul back.
Get her soul back?
As the former master of the darkness beyond all things, I have certain authorities when it comes to that which ends up there. If I'm able to make good on my promise to Narrativa and fix the mess I've made, and I return to my throne in the darkness, I could take the soul of the noble and lost Inga and put it back where it belongs. I have no love for the psychotic fanatics that claim to worship me, and their bizarre experiments now leave a bad taste in my mouth. Undoing their work is why I'm here, and this would just be another, chance to spit in their eye. And he looks at Olga and winks. Olga kicks him in the ribs.
I move over, not to stop her, but to stop the next one.
Yeah. You stop her while she's pulling back for that second kick.
Yeah.
Or we could let her rot, put her in the ground. It's entirely up to you.
Well, that is not our decision to make. And I look to Olga.
Olga looks down at Antony. Do you swear, in the name of the goddess you claim to love, that you can do this thing? Yes? For whatever my word is worth. Bring him. Bring him to the body.
I undo the manacles, take him off the wheel, redo the manacles. Manacles always on. Fuck him.
Absolutely. Olga grabs him by the manacles and drags him roughly through the black dirt and dust of the Badlands. She shoves her way through the ring of her family, who is still wailing over the body of Inga. And she drags Antony up alongside of Inga's body. Antony looks at it with his large blue eyes over his crooked beak of a nose. He shakes his white shock of hair and places his manacled hands on Inga Hilltopple's dead body. Helga yelps and rushes over to stop him. Olga holds her back. And there is a wave of black energy. A glow in Antony's eyes that rolls down his shoulders, into his fingertips, and into Inga's body. And she does not awaken, and she does not move, but a slight bit of color seems to return to her cheeks. She doesn't breathe, but she seems less gray than she was a moment ago. And Antony says, "For as long as her soul remains in the void, I can keep her body from decomposing. If we are able to fulfill my promise to the goddess Narrativa, I swear upon my cowardice, my stupidity, I swear upon my every sin, that I will return her soul to her body. If these protagonists are up to the task, you have not seen the last of Inga Hilltopple. This, I swear, by the stain I have left upon this very land."
I spit in the dirt.
Antony turns on a heel and looks at the group of you all standing there. "Well, my grieving protagonists, what is in store for your old friend Sebastian? Forgive me. Antony. Is it beheading, trampling, drawing and quartering? This body's been through quite a bit already, but I would understand if you feel the need to dispatch one so loathsome as I. Where to next? I am completely at your mercy."
I'm gonna take a length of rope out of my pack. I'm going to tie one end around the chain of his manacles, and I'm going to tie the other end to the back of the wagon. Wordlessly, that's my response.
I walk up to Antony, and I pull out my dagger, and I cut off a good length of cloth from his clothing. I don't know, cape or shirt, whatever. And then I kind of want to gag him, so I do that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You cut a nice length of fabric from his shirt, and tie it around his mouth, effectively gagging him. He offers absolutely no resistance, simply shrugs and nods.
I turn and look at my companions.
Here is what I know is true. Varix will die, and we all have bad things coming our way.
You're talking about the cards.
I'm talking about the cards.
Yeah, I got death. So that's fun.
Ruin here.
The Urali, which I don't fully understand. Swords in my back. Maybe a curse.
I just reflexively look at Zerabak. I don't know.
I've got no idea what you're talking about.
Zerabak got the throne. So...
Yeah, that doesn't ring any bells.
I just slap the lizard on the back. Just give him a good pat. There, lizard.
let's get the fuck out of this place.
Finally!
Yeah. I think it's time we hit the road.
And with that, you all mount up. The Hilltopples all clamber into their wagons, a bit bewildered. They take a long crate from the back of one of their wagons, put some blankets down in it, and very, very carefully lay Inga's remains inside of it. Helga and Olga pipe up. Helga the Red says, "If this fiend is the one who is responsible for fixing our mother, I will watch him like a hawk for the rest of my days. And Olga says, if you need guards for your prisoner, we shall both watch him until the end of the road. You have 2 gaolers here, more than willing.
I mean, I was content to drag him along the back of the wagon where everyone can see him.
We will kick him when he falls to make sure he keeps up. Do not worry. This creature is under our care, and he will know it every day.
Well, I'm okay with this.
Can we go already?
So, who's driving the Wagon of Wonders?
Unless Rilla wants to, I will.
No, Rilla rides on top, baby.
Yeah, I don't think I have any ability to do that well.
I mean, no one technically does, but it's fine.
I'm riding Cole.
I like being further above the horse butts if possible. So,
So, as Hector takes the reins of the Wagon of Wonders, Rilla takes her place on the roof. Ruger Firehide mounts his noble steed Cole, and as the caravan of the Hilltopples stretches out behind you, you make your way north along the blasted road, dragging the corpse of Sebastian Weaver, now revealed to be Anthony Geist, the Stricken, behind you. He remains flanked by Helga and Olga, who are mounted on their riding dogs and keep a close eye on him as you snake your way north. You travel for 2 days, making your way through the alien landscape of the Badlands as it stretches all around you until finally, one glorious morning, the sun rises a beautiful golden hue on the proper side of the sky and continues to rise over your heads. The road before you turns into a healthy brown, and weeds and flowers start to bud. Far in the distance, you see a sight that you had hoped would come into view long ago. The mist-shrouded peaks of the Everspring Mountains, peeking up out of the dense and lush foliage of the Spring Vale Forest. The sun sends a rainbow arching through the swirling mists created by the many waterfalls crashing down the side of the mountain. As you all close in on the distant peaks of this fabled cluster of mountains and the Bard's College that is supposed to be nestled therein, we reach the end of Book 1. Hello and welcome to As the Dice Turns, the podcast after the podcast, where we take a deep dive into our player characters' motivations, characterizations, their fears and weaknesses, and try to get a better understanding of them as people. In this part of the show, we like to ask each of our player characters a question and see if we can't glean some deeper knowledge of their character. We are going to start this time with Hector. Hector, the Gatekeeper. It is a pleasure to have you in the studio. How are you today, sir?
Oh, I've been better, but, seeing your face, I feel a little bit better about myself, so there's that.
Well, I'm glad to help in whatever way I can. This is not only for the listeners' benefit, but we hope the benefit of you all, the protagonists, as well. You're the main characters, and we hope this is therapeutic in some way, shape, or form. To that end, let's get to the question today. Hector the Gatekeeper, do you feel like a failure?
Fuck you. Sorry, that was a gut reaction, and that was very unprofessional. And it's just a really bad time to throw that in at me, and I don't like it.
Now, we are known for asking hard-hitting questions in this segment, and, our polls show that times of emotional strife, our listeners really want to get down to the nitty-gritty on stuff like this. Now, the traitor, Inga Hilltopple, not only arguably befriended you and your companions, but officially paid you and hired you as bodyguards. She now lays dead. And I'm just curious if you feel like a failure.
Fuck you. Again, sorry, that was a gut reaction. Look, I've never experienced a loss quite like that of failing to save the life of Inga Hilltopple. Do I feel like a failure at this moment with this task? Of course. As a person? In life? I don't know yet.
That is a fair answer, and I appreciate you engaging me on this rather hard-hitting question. That is all we needed, and I am sorry for your loss. Until next time, Hector.
See ya.
Ruger Firehide. Ruger, thank you so much for joining us once again in the studio. We certainly appreciate the adjustments you've had to make to your freewheeling schedule to join us here and answer these questions. How are you today?
Well, host, I've been better. I've definitely been better, but I'm here.
That's interesting. It seems to be going around. I think Hector said something just about the same thing. Well, it's time as usual for a question. And the question we have today is, Ruger Firehide, do you feel like a failure?
Honestly, host, yes. In pretty much every way that a man can. I've let down just about every person I've ever loved and who has loved me. I've failed as a lawman. I've failed as a bounty hunter. I've failed as a sheriff. I've failed as a husband. And more recently, I've failed as a bodyguard.
So it's safe to say that this feeling is nothing new for you and it sort of haunts you day to day wherever you go?
Failure and grief are two friends that I keep as regular company. Yes, sir.
Well, that has to be quite a heavy burden. Does that affect your day-to-day behavior, the decisions you make?
Honestly, for a long time, yeah. Nowadays, I like to believe I've turned a page in Narrativa's book, as it were, and I just try to move forward and not let the weight of my past keep me from tomorrow's purpose.
That's fair enough. Sounds like the only way someone could survive with your particular history. Well, we certainly appreciate your honesty. Tough questions, hitting hard, but, we're getting pretty deep into the story at this point, and, we feel like our listeners really want to get a solid peek inside of our characters. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time, Ruger.
So long, host.
Next up, we've got Zurabak, King of the Shocker Lizards, Champion of the Goats. Zurabak, thanks for shambling in here today. How are you?
Pretty good. Every day I see you, I'm reminded I'm not like you. Awful, weak, pathetic. Generally despised.
Well, that should segue nicely into our question for today, and I'm sure I and everyone listening already knows the answer. But Zurabak, do you feel like a failure?
Why would I feel like a failure? I'm pretty amazing.
Well, you are certainly skilled at combat and at spellcasting, and while you certainly wouldn't care at all about the loss of Inga Hilltopple's life, you were sent out into the world against your will due to the machinations of a small, weak bard who was actually someone else the entire time. You have been revealed to be a pawn in a much larger game and are now engaging in activities that you don't give two shits about because you were forced to. Does that have any bearing on your feelings of failure?
Nope.
All right.
We're all pawns here. It doesn't matter who's playing. We're all going to die sometime. Especially you. Because you're weak, pathetic, and nobody loves you.
All right. Asked and answered. Zurabak, thanks as always. You have yourself a good one, all right?
Oh, I will. You're gonna need to reinforce that door again. Keeps, breaking.
Yeah, we might just leave that as, sort of an open entryway, sort of an open design. We'll get on that. And last but not least,
Well, you remember what happened last time you did that.
we'll work on it. And last but not least, Rilla Longshadow. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you, host?
I'm just fine. Just digging to the deepest depths of the psychology of your companions for purely entertainment purposes. Just my usual thing. The question that we have today is, do you feel like a failure?
No. Definitely not. Why would I?
Well, it's interesting. Hector and Ruger certainly felt plenty of reason to feel like a failure, considering that Inga Hilltopple, traveling companion of you for the past long while, did technically pay you all to protect her life, and you didn't. Just curious if that makes you feel like a failure at all.
We were set up by an evil entity that destroyed the world, kind of, for fun. And one, no, we have yet to die. 2, we figured out that he's been lying to us. 3, we got Inga back from a monk that could have murdered us with a touch and blew up his weird tower. And, we have done so much good, even though an evil thing set it up to begin with. But we are achieving and growing and getting better, and we're gonna beat the shit out of him. So no, I feel like we've done some pretty good stuff, and I'm very, very proud of all of us, even Zurabak. No, I think we're doing great. World is set against us a little bit here, and we're succeeding and saving lives. So no, I do not feel like a failure.
Well, Rilla, I have to say, I am surprised and delighted by that answer. Normally, when we are running through these questions, there's not a correct answer, but this time there was, and you just gave it. Optimism.
I talked my aunt out of being evil, very recently. I feel great. I mean, it's awful that Inga is soulless, but we'll fix it. It's fine.
You have stumbled across the correct answer to this question, and I am so delighted that at least one of you is able to see the larger picture. You all may have lost a battle, but you're looking good as far as the war is concerned, and I am always on y'all's side. So you may want to share that feeling with your companions. They seem a little, depressed. They might need a bit of cheering up, maybe get a little of that sunshine over their way. But excellent answer, and thank you so much for your honesty. I have my fingers crossed for the lot of you, and we'll see what book 2 looks like.
Cool. I'm gonna go now.
Bye. All right, and that's gonna do it for this episode of As the Dice Turns, the podcast after the podcast. Sharon and I would like to thank you as always for tuning in. And what's that? Sharon, what? What is this? Sharon, what is this? Ad copy. What's ad? We have a sponsor? No one cleared this with me. We'll get to it next time. I'm sorry. We'll get to that next time. Keep those dice rolling. Hey there, dear listeners. It's Sam, your Dungeon Master, checking in here with the credits at the end of the show. Let's try to get these hammered out as quick as possible. Music for Challenge Rating 0 is provided by the dreaded harp wolf, Danielle Williams. You can find more of her beautiful music at danielletaylorharp.bandcamp.com. She has an album out called Why Are We Surprised When Seasons Change? You should check it out. It's a real banger. Additional music for Challenge Rating 0 is provided by Justin Ra. He's got a new website, justinra.com. Check it out, and check out his album Age of the Spirit as well. It is an excellent album, and I highly recommend it. If you'd like to reach out to us here at Challenge Rating 0, you can find us on Facebook, Challenge Rating 0, on Instagram at Challenge Rating 0. You can find us on Twitter at Challenge_0. You can find Beth on Twitter at Dragon, the letter N, Distress. You can find Brian at Dalabrack. You can find Alex at Alex Clanky, Klenke. You can find me at Horace Kemp 3, HORUSKEMP3. If you would like to submit a question for As the Dice Turns, you can email us at challengeratingzero@gmail.com. That's challengeratingzero@gmail.com. Or you can hit us up on Twitter at challenge_0 with a question for our characters. Any questions you submit will be read on the show, and you can personally hold our protagonist's feet to the fire. I would like to give a special shout out this week to the PC Bombcast podcast, the Pop Culture Bombcast. They're another excellent local podcast made in St. Louis, and they were kind enough to feature me on their latest episode. So you can check out PC Bombcast anywhere you find podcasts. You can also go to pcbombcast.com, pcbombcast.com, to check out their stuff. They were very nice, and we had a lovely conversation about Dungeons and Dragons and our show, and it was a very good time. I highly recommend you check them out. That's PC Bombcast. Find them anywhere you find podcasts. If anyone out there in the St. Louis area is looking for a professional dungeon master, you can go to samthedm.com, my website, and find ways to get in touch with me to run a game for you and your friends. samthedm.com. I am also signed up for a special event this summer at Sage Mountain Camping. If you go to sagemountaincamping.com, you can buy tickets for a Dungeons and Dragons convention at a campsite. You pay for your ticket, and you get an entire weekend of camping and Dungeons and Dragons run by a professional dungeon master. I am one of the pro dungeon masters sign up for this event. I'm very excited for it. I highly recommend that you all check it out. They are having several of these events over the course of the summer. The next one starts June 24th, the Thursday, June 24th, and runs until Sunday, the 27th. You can go to sagemountaincamping.com to get more information. And buy a ticket. You get a whole weekend of camping and Dungeons and Dragons with pro DMs. How could you go wrong? I think that's everything. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We are at the end of book 1 here, sort of the first, leg of the story, the first main chunk. We thank you all so much for following along with us, for keeping up with the show, and we hope that you stick with us for what we've got coming up next. We're going to keep cranking these episodes out, and we hope that you're here to listen. Thank you very much, folks. Be good to each other. Bye.